What is up, bros? It's Josh here, and welcome to our mini-series for captain builds in World of Warships. As you all know, in 8.0, the captain skills were changed due to the CV rework, and that did affect normal captain builds throughout the entirety of the game. In 8.0, you were able to get free captain respecs, so I thought I'd make a quick little video over each nation and each class when it has to do with captain builds. Hope this video helps you out and gives you an idea of what to build your captain around now that you have the free captain respecs. Throughout all of these videos, I will not be including the legendary modules because so few people actually have them. These are going to be basic builds that will work for most players. Obviously, some of the legendary modules will change up the playstyle a little bit, but these are just basic builds for the majority of players that they can build off and then tweak them a tad over time towards their playstyle. So I will mention some of the legendary modules, however, I will not make builds around the actual legendary modules. In this video, we'll be going over the Imperial Japanese Navy and all the lines within that tech tree and captain builds that will work for each one of those. Also, some small changes, and I'll offer my idea of what I prefer and then show some alternatives that you could take in exchange for other points. In this video, though, we'll go in order from Japanese to cruisers to torpedo destroyers and gunboat destroyers, as well as showing a captain for our CV line. So the first one we're going to go over is Japanese battleships. And really with this line, obviously it depends on how far you've done, but one of the main things you're going to want to get in this line and get for this entire line is Yamamoto. And what you can do by that is going over to the campaigns and finishing up the campaign for Yamamoto. He gives you some insane boosts if you go over and finish up his campaign. Now, obviously, everyone can't do this, but this is just a benefit, and I will show you what he can actually do. But once you finish this, you get the captain himself with 15 points. And the reason why you want Yamamoto is because he's basically badass. Him and Halsey are the two super premium captains, and they bring you a lot of extra bonuses. Not only do you get improved preventive maintenance, you also get improved expert marksmanship, which is fantastic for the Yamato, but you also get the talents, which only him and Halsey have. So concealed reserves, if you get first blood, you get an extra consumable for everything, which is actually quite nice. And then if you get a Kraken, you get an insane heal. And also you can get a buff on reload time and stuff like that. So this is fantastic. But for IJN battleships, this is what I tend to run right here. Now you can see a few points that are not used, and I'll explain that as well. But preventive maintenance is fantastic. The reason that you're going to want these, obviously you get the boost with Yamamoto. If you don't have the captain, it's still what I would take right here, but you're doing all your damage with your guns. Yes, IGN has some good secondaries, but preventive maintenance will help not lose your guns, so that's exactly what you want. Expert marksmanship is fantastic. Obviously, as you're getting higher and higher into the tiers, you want those guns to get on target. Ships are going faster. You want them to get on target as fast as possible. Obviously, with Yamamoto, you have an improved expert marksmanship, which is fantastic. So taking that is awesome. Number 3, now this is kind of up to people, but I love basic of survivability. Time on fire, fire extinguishing, and recovering from flooding. You're a big bad battleship. You have 4 slots to take damage of fire. You're going to be on fire a decent amount. Obviously, everything's kind of spamming fire right now, so this limits that time. So this is awesome. Now, with this is still up to the player. I still find, now obviously I picked fire prevention right here, again, lacking. It's not so much the catching of fire 10%. Now, just a quick side note, that minus 10% does not mean you are cutting a ship's percentage by 10%. If a ship, for example, has a 10% fire chance and they are firing at you, that does not mean they have 0% fire chance. You are limiting their chance of fire by 10%. So if a ship is firing at you with 10% HE, they now only have a 9% fire chance, if that makes any sense. So you're cutting the percent of their percent. Also, one of the main things is, though, when you look at this, you're basically taking out the middle 2 fire slots and turning them into 1. So it's just one big fire, but still only does the fire of 1. Also, with battleships, I know this has kind of fallen to the wayside for a lot of people, but still for IJN, and especially the Montana as well, I still like Concealment Expert. It's good. It's still across the board, especially with the Yamato being able to go dark if you need to. Gives you an advantage to potentially get a cheek shot on another Yamato, a broadside salvo on another battleship, just because they can't see you because you are undetected. I still really enjoy Concealment Expert. And then, of course, the cherry on top for every build in this game, if you can fit it in, Adrenaline Rush is fantastic. Now the final 3. Me, Josh, why aren't you picking Superintendent? Why? That's the go-to, right? Blah, blah, blah. Superintendent for me is kind of a hard sell right now, because not only am I kind of stacking for a quote-unquote survivability build, you're really only going to get one extra heal. Now, that heal can be fantastic and you can get a lot of life from it, but not every game I'm going to be using all 4 heals. So Superintendent basically spending 3 points to get potentially 1 extra heal, I don't quite see the point. Also, AFT. AFT for me has really fallen to the wayside for a lot of the IJN battleships. Now, it is still good for the secondary build, but in my opinion, secondary builds have kind of fallen off to the wayside. Also, BFT, I don't really see it. 10% extra on the AA, yeah, that's nice, but if a CV really wants to beat you up these days, it's going to continue to beat you up. Now, personally, what I would do with my last 3 points, and this is just my preference, is I would pick up High Alert. What this does is makes your repair come up faster, so you can repair those extra fires, and that flood, if they happen, you get a faster repair. Also, one thing you could do is pick Priority Target. This is what I would run on my battleship. You could pick up Expert Loader and, you know, switch shells in and out faster. You're the Amato, you have lull pens, you don't really need to do this, but this is what I would run. I would pick these up, get that faster repair. Also, you could pick up maybe High Alert if you want to, not too much on this, but for BFT Superintendent, I'm not quite sure if the value is there. Also, everything else is kind of mediocre. Again, if you like secondary builds, obviously you can still pick those up, but I feel like those have kind of just been pushed away. With how many CVs there are, it's hard to get super aggressive, and if people know how to shoot the cheek a tad better. Again, I just don't see the value in Superintendent anymore. BFT, meh. AFT, yeah, you get the extra range on your secondaries. I just don't feel like it's worth. This is what I would run on IJN battleships. Again, you could easily take out Priority Target and High Alert, pick up something you want, but this is what I would run for the IJN battleships. For IJN cruisers, you're going to be going a little different. Obviously, if you have Yamamoto and you want to put him on your cruiser, you can do that, and that's awesome. I'm just going to stick mine on my battleship captain, and we'll probably just continue like this throughout the entire video. This is a 19-point captain. Again, you don't see all of my points being spent, and I will show you why. Now, some pretty big things I want to talk about here, and there's a couple skills that I think are basically mandatory. And one, I started with Priority Target. This is fantastic. For Cruiser's Life, I think this is almost a mandatory skill. Knowing how many ships are focusing you, if you can sit broadside and farm more damage, especially with the Zao, getting information with, or any of the IJN cruisers actually, getting information if a destroyer is potentially near you and you don't see it. And also just having this information is priceless in my opinion. I think this is a very underrated skill. I think if you're a DD or a cruiser, you should definitely be taking this. For this though, after this, again, I'll take Expert Marksmanship. If you have Yamamoto, it's fantastic. But these will just speed up the turret rotation. I definitely like that as well. For this though, picking up Superintendent, the reason why is you will get either another Hydro, another AA, and a spotter plane and a heal. Cruisers, Superintendent gets a lot of value because you're picking up so many extra charges for so many different things. Then obviously picking up Concealment. Now you could go maybe a double rudder shift build or blah 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 if you want to be, you know, this next 360 no scope montage World of Warship player. But for me, I'm going for a consistent build and something that will probably work for everybody. Concealment is right there. So this is the base 10 points, and then after that you kind of backfill with what you feel like you really want. As you see right here, I'm not really going for any AA builds. With the Zao, I just don't feel like, you know, they definitely are there. I feel like you're going to fend off enough planes as it is. You could go a full AA build. I'm not going to dive into too many AA builds throughout this video, but I really like radiolocation. Obviously, this is going to be a much higher tier skill. You could probably hold off on spending these points. A bit more of a try-hard skill. Radiolocation is nice if you're holding down that flank, if you're playing clan battles, or if you're playing, you know, like ranked battles, something like that. This is fantastic. You could probably hold off on this, maybe easily pick up something like BFT is a great pickup there with the extra points. You could drop that, pick up BFT. That'd be fantastic. BFT and Demo Expert. I really like radiolocation because most of the time with the Zao, you're kind of holding down a flank all by yourself, or, you know, with the other tiers, kind of holding down a flank and getting extra information about maybe you're kind of acting almost like a big destroyer in a way. So radiolocation for me, I really enjoy. But again, you could drop this easily and pick up something like BFT for some more AA, keeping yourself alive, maybe even Demo Expert. That plus 2% is not really that bad. Obviously, if you can pick it up, Adrenaline Rush, this is fantastic, but this is a pretty standard 17-point captain. One of the main things you're going to want to grab with this, especially when you get into the 203s that the majority of the line has, is Expert Loader. This thing is so god tier on this, and if you don't have it, you notice it. And one of the main things this does is this will allow you, if you're if your shell is reloaded, switching to the other ammo type only takes half the amount of time. This is so strong for the IJN cruisers, and you will definitely want to pick this up. This is worth the 1 point. If you have to lose a tier 3 to get a tier 2 and this, it's worth it. This is something I would definitely grab. Honestly, if I were you, I would grab this at my 11th point. This is such a good skill for this line, and I would definitely pick this up as you're going through, because you will get you can get dev strikes with this IJN line because of the 203s. Most of the time you're shooting that HE, but if something's giving you that broadside, you have your salvo reloaded, you switch really quickly to the other ammo, and then boom, 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 it's Citadel Town, baby. And so the last 2 points is kind of up to you on what you could take. You could easily, if you have Yamamoto, take preventative maintenance. That's fantastic, but you have this awkward last point. One thing I try to take, or I tend to take with this, is potentially Jack of all trades. Jack of all trades is really not that bad. You could pick this up and get faster stuff. You kind of have an awkward 2 points just laying around. So again, you could free up some points if you don't take radio location. I just prefer it. You could drop Jack of all trades, drop radio location, and pick up something like BFT and Demo Expert. Give yourself a little bit more AA and a little bit more fire. So that's kind of what I would run. Up to you. Either I would switch out this and this for this and this, or keep these two. Again, at the first 11 points, I would pick up, at 11 point, I'd pick up Expert Loader. It's so good. You will definitely use it and you will love it. IJN torp boats. Now again, remember this line has been split into two, the torp boats and the gun boats, so obviously they're going to have much different captains. But for the torp boats, this is what I would go with. Again, if you can grab Yamamoto, it's fantastic, but you're not really going to be using him for his perks, but you can still use him for his skills, which are both that First Blood as well as that Kraken. So if you don't even use the captain perks that are bumped, you could still use those skills. They're fantastic. And in destroyers, you tend to get First Bloods a lot. This is my basic captain. Again, you see some 3 points I haven't used yet, but this is the basic build I will use for any destroyer right now, and it's very addicting, this kind of build. But you can use the 16-point build for almost every line in this entire game. So first 10 points, very, very basic. Priority target, last stand, survivability expert, and concealment. Very copy paste for almost every line in this game besides a couple standout destroyers. And then at 14, give me that radio location. I want that radio location. Shimikaze now gets beat by a lot of destroyers, but now has some decent guns to defend itself. And what you want to do, you're fast, you're stealthy. You want to find out where the nearest target is for your torps. Maybe you can stealth torp. You can use your guns, get a little bit of a surprise on them. The IJN alpha damage on the guns are fantastic, and you definitely want to pick up radio location. A lot of people don't use this. I don't know how this hasn't caught on yet. I think a lot of people might not know the actual the benefits of this. You can make or break your games with this skill. It's fantastic. This is probably going to be a build you're going to see on almost all of my destroyers, so it's going to be a little easier. But IJN torp boats, this is my standard 14 point. Obviously, Adrenaline Rush is fantastic at 16, and the last 3 are going to be up to you. You could easily pick up Torpedo Armament to drop 10% off that torpedo reload. Not a bad idea. One thing you could pick up is Superintendent. This would give you an extra smoke, a 4th smoke, and 4th speed boost. There's some decent value there. But one thing that isn't worth, or it could be worth, I mean, but isn't totally offsetting, is the basic firing training. This could actually help you in a lot of situations, being a bit more of a defensive gunboat where you can do a tad more damage. I don't really mind this. A lot of the times you're not going to be posted up in your smoke firing, so maybe you could pass on taking that extra smoke. You don't quite need 4. One thing though, very basic, you could grab torpedo armament if you want to just launch more torpedoes. I think personally for me, I would grab BFT, buff those guns just a little bit, get them a little bit more competitive against stuff like the Daring, the Gearing, the Z52. There's a lot of other DDs that you're going to have to do damage, and you're going to actually, what? IJN Torp Destroyer? You're actually going to shoot your guns? You're going to have to. So, especially if you force a flood and then they repair, you could then start something on fire. Those IJN guns are really not too bad. But it's going to be up to you, eventual player your play style. Do you want to be a bit more safe with an extra smoke? Maybe you could farm a tad more damage with your guns. Do you want to defend yourself a tad better with basic firing training? Get those guns going. Or do you want to launch more torpedoes and be that pure torpedo boat? Demo Expert, don't quite see the value. You could probably end up doing just more damage with the actual alpha or the actual rate of fire. So I would stick between these three. That's going to be up on you. For me, I'm going to pick up BFT. The Shima guns actually aren't too bad. They got their buffs recently. And this is what I would run for a 19-point captain for an IJN torp boat. After the split of the IJN DDs, now you have the IJN gunboat. So these are going to have their own specific captain. So let's dive into that. Again, 3 points I haven't used. It's going to be up to your playstyle. Pretty basic though for a tier 10 or tier anything destroyer. Priority target, last stand, survivability expert, and concealment. Very, very, very basic. However, not picking up radar location. One of the things you're going to want to do with this line as fast as possible, probably by a tier 8 you might have 14 points, is pick up inertia fuse. You have that very low caliber gun, 100 millimeters, and you need that extra pen to really make this happen. So this will increase the penetration by 30%. This is how you're going to be doing your damage. Inertia fuse is a must for this gunboat line. Again, tier 8, tier 9, tier 10. So after that, that's your first 14 points. Adrenaline rush is fantastic. You're going to be picking that up. Now, you may be asking, why am I not picking up AFT? Me, Josh, why not AFT? Why not? Why aren't you doing that? Well, because I am actually running the range module. Now, one thing you could do is pick up AFT and run the reload module, but I feel like it's not quite worth it getting 11 or 12% reload speed for what you're going to give up 4 points for. It's just not worth it. I would take up this. This gives me a 14.6 kilometer range, which is fantastic with these Archon guns. You're not really going to need anything more than that. Obviously, you could run range plus AFT and get way out there, like 18 kilometers or something like that, but good luck actually hitting anything. But that's what I run. That's why I'm not taking AFT. But the last one is kind of up to you on what you would take on the rest of your points. And to me, it's between one or the other. BFT or superintendent. Again, demo expert, I just don't see the point of taking 2 extra % fire. You will be obviously setting things on fire, but to me, that's just going to be, you want alpha damage, so you want to be sending out as many shells as possible. So picking up BFT could be fantastic, or picking up the extra charge for all your consumables on superintendent. The more actual consumables you have, obviously the more value you get out of this. An extra smoke, an extra speed boost, and an extra torp reload booster. I think I would honestly go with BFT. I think 3 smokes is going to be enough, but again, this is going to be up to your playstyle. Everything else isn't quite worth it in my opinion. Again, picking up AFT is kind of meh. BFT kind of doubles down with getting some extra AA. So that's what I would pick. I would go with BFT. But this is my build for the IJN gunboats. Again, you want that normal 10-point grabbing concealment first, picking up inertia fuse at 14 as fast as you can, and then kind of backfilling with what you want for the rest of those. If you want to play a little bit more defensive, taking superintendent, that's sure. If you want to take BFT, get a little bit more reload time decrease as well as extra A, that's always awesome. And again, if you want to take the reload module, you can take that as well. Advanced firing training, and then you'd have to backfill it with whatever you want there. This is my basic build for IJN destroyers. Last but not least for the Imperial Navy is the aircraft carriers. Now, I am not a big aircraft carrier player, and I am definitely not one to push the meta and know everything about CVs, but my build is very safe for when it comes to this, and it all seems pretty good to me. So there's a couple good things that kind of stand out. Obviously, aircraft restoration time for the first point, as well as engine boost. I personally take engine boost first. This is fantastic to me, and I really enjoy that. Next for me is torpedo acceleration at 2 points. This is just nice for me. The aerial speed, you lose some range, but aerial speed is kind of nice. Pump in those torps and get them in target as fast as possible. You could easily pick up improved engines. Squadron speed is nice, but I like hitting my torps and I like getting damage on target. Survivability expert seems weird to take, but aircraft HP for each ship tier plus 15 is fantastic. So this is awesome. Definitely would take this, especially when you're learning the class. You can get a little bit more life on your planes and get a little bit more damage in on CVs or against other ships with your CV. Sight stabilization is fantastic at 10 points. Getting the extra aiming time is nice. 5%, 5%, and then 10%, especially when you're learning this. I've talked to a couple CV players and they said you can kind of drop this at certain points, but still overall I think it's good for a normal player. Going back and getting aircraft armor, this is going to help with that survivability of your planes through AA strikes and getting in there and attacking your targets. So aircraft armor is also nice. Again, backtracking and picking up whatever one you didn't pick here for improved, either picking up the speed as well as picking up air supremacy or or picking up expert if you haven't done that before. Also, demo expert is fantastic. The extra HE to all fire bombs. This is actually quite nice as well. Again, this may not be the most perfect CV build, but I think this is going to be pretty dang solid. I would go in certain orders, picking up these ones a little early if you can. Obviously, when you're learning the class, site stabilization will help, and these ones are definitely going to help with survivability of your planes. Once these are kind of stabilized and you can go learn that, maybe you can mix out a couple things. This is very basic for me, and this is what I would take for my CV captain. And that is it for the Imperial Japanese Navy and captain builds that I recommend. In the end, it is my recommendations on these. I will show you what I am running for all of these, and you can end up making the choices in the end off of your type of playstyle. But I hope these builds help you out, making as good of a captain as you can, and hopefully enlighten you on some of the ups and downs of captain skills for this nation. Anyways, that's for me, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.